I had been working at Whitmore and Kane, consulting for 6 years when the promotion was finally within reach. Senior project director, corner office, 6-figure salary. My name had been whispered in meetings for months. My boss, Daniel Reeves, told me privately, "You've earned this, Claire. Just hang tight." So I did. I stayed late. I skipped holidays. I missed my sister's wedding dress fitting. I trained new hires who made more than I did. I built client portfolios from scratch. And I trusted Ethan. Ethan Cole was my co-worker, my work husband according to the office jokes. We brainstormed together, grabbed lunch at the taco truck every Tuesday. I shared everything with him, including my biggest project, the Morrison expansion deal. It was my masterpiece. I had nurtured that contract for nearly a year, flying back and forth to Chicago, smoothing over disputes, practically living out of airport lounges. The Monday of the announcement, I wore my lucky navy blazer, the one my mom bought me when I got my first corporate job in Seattle. I remember adjusting the sleeves in the bathroom mirror, telling myself, "You did this." At 9:03 a.m., the company-wide email hit. "Please congratulate our new senior project director, Ethan Cole." My heart didn't break. It stopped. I stared at the screen while co-workers clapped from Ethan's office. My inbox flooded with "So sorry, Claire" messages. Daniel wouldn't look me in the eye. "And Ethan?" He walked over 10 minutes later with a sheepish grin. "Hey," he said quietly, "I didn't know they were going to choose me." That was a lie, because attached to the promotion email was a summary of Ethan's accomplishments. The Morrison expansion deal. My Morrison expansion deal. He hadn't just taken credit. He'd presented my private strategy drafts, the ones I'd emailed him for feedback, as his independent proposal. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My hands trembled, but I smiled. "Congratulations," I said. "You deserve it." He exhaled in relief. That was his mistake. That afternoon, I went back to my desk and opened my sent folder. Every draft, every timestamp, every track change, every forwarded file with my metadata still embedded. Ethan thought he'd stolen my future, but what he didn't realize was that I had built more than a project. I had built the entire system he was about to run. And systems can be dismantled. I didn't cry that night. I made a plan. That night, I didn't pour wine or call my best friend. I opened my laptop. Ethan might have had the title, but I still had access. I had built every workflow spreadsheet, every vendor relationship tracker, every automated reporting template the department relied on. And because I was just a project manager, no one ever questioned why I handled the backend systems. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't going to sabotage anything illegal or harm clients. That would destroy my own reputation. No, I was going to let the truth surface. First, I downloaded every original draft of the Morrison expansion deal, complete with timestamps showing my authorship. Then I pulled archived Slack conversations where Ethan literally wrote, "You're the brains behind this, Claire. I'm just polishing it." Polishing it. I saved performance reviews where Daniel praised my exceptional leadership on the Morrison account. I organized everything into folders, clean, precise, undeniable. But documentation wasn't enough. Ethan needed to fail publicly on his own. The Morrison team was scheduled to present quarterly projections to the executive board in 3 weeks. Normally, I would have prepped the analytics, coached the talking points, and anticipated every question from finance. This time, I did exactly what my job description required. Nothing more. When Ethan emailed, "Hey, can you send me the forecast variance breakdown you usually do?" I replied, "Sure, it's in the shared drive under Morrison Q2 base template. Let me know if you have questions." There was no breakdown, just the raw data. He sent 3 follow-up emails that week. I answered politely, briefly, professionally. No strategy, no insight, no safety net. By Friday, cracks were already showing. One of the Morrison executives called me directly. "Claire," she said carefully, "Ethan mentioned shifting suppliers to cut costs. That wasn't part of your original model, was it?" Original model? I felt the first flicker of power return. "No," I answered evenly. "That adjustment wasn't in my proposal." There was silence on the line. "I thought so," she replied. "Word travels fast in corporate America, especially when millions of dollars are involved." Ethan had stolen my blueprint, but he didn't understand the architecture. And in 3 weeks, He was going to stand in front of the board without me holding the walls up. For the first time since that email, I smiled, and this time, it wasn't fake. The morning of the executive board meeting felt electric. Ethan wore a new charcoal suit. He walked through the office like he owned it, now shaking hands, laughing too loudly, calling people team like he'd built something. I arrived early, quiet, observant. I carried a slim black folder under my arm. Inside it, every receipt. The boardroom overlooked downtown, glass walls, polished table, 12 leather chairs filled with people who controlled the future of the company. Daniel sat near the head, stiff and pale. Ethan stood near the screen, clicking through slides. At first, he sounded confident. Revenue growth, expansion strategy, vendor realignment. Then the questions started. The CFO leaned forward. Walk us through the supplier shift risk mitigation. Ethan blinked. Well, we've diversified channels. That's not mitigation, she replied flatly. That's a cost cut. He clicked to the next slide too quickly. A board member from Chicago adjusted his glasses. Your original projection showed a 14% logistics buffer. This deck shows 6%. Why? Original projection. Ethan swallowed. We optimized. Silence filled the room like smoke. The Chicago board member turned slightly. Claire, you led Morrison before the transition, correct? Every eye moved to me. I hadn't planned to speak first. But this? This was better. Yes, I said calmly. The 14% buffer accounted for Midwest seasonal volatility and union freight delays. Removing it increases exposure by roughly $2.3 million annually. The CFO looked sharply at Ethan. Was that disclosed? He opened his mouth, closed it. We discussed adjustments internally. No, we didn't. I placed my folder gently on the table. I believe there may be confusion regarding authorship of the original Morrison framework. I said evenly. I've brought documentation clarifying development history, including drafts, timestamps, and client communications. Daniel's face drained of color. The room shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, but powerful. The board chair, a woman known for dismantling weak executives in under 5 minutes, extended her hand. Let's see it. Ethan stared at me like I'd just pulled the floor from under him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I handed over facts, printed emails, version histories, performance reviews explicitly crediting me, Slack screenshots where Ethan thanked me for letting him present our work. Our work. The board chair flipped through the pages slowly. You presented this as your independent strategy, she said to Ethan. His voice cracked. It was collaborative. I finally met his eyes. No, I said quietly. It wasn't. The room went very still. And for the first time since 9:03 am 3 weeks ago, Ethan looked afraid. The silence in that boardroom felt heavier than any accusation. No one yelled. No one slammed a fist on the table. That's how real power works. The board chair closed the folder slowly and looked at Daniel. Did you verify authorship before approving this promotion? Daniel's voice came out thin. We relied on the submission materials. Submission materials Ethan compiled. The CFO turned to me. Claire, were you aware Mr. Cole submitted your framework as his own? No, I said steadily. I found out the same time everyone else did. Through the promotion email that landed. One of the outside directors leaned back in his chair. So the company elevated someone based on misrepresented intellectual contribution tied to a multi-million-dollar client. No one corrected him. Ethan's confidence was gone now. His jaw tightened, hands gripping the edge of the table. It wasn't intentional, he said quickly. Claire and I worked closely. I refined the strategy. Leadership is about execution. The board chair didn't blink. Execution requires ownership. This documentation suggests you removed hers. He tried one last angle. She never objected before. I almost laughed. You never asked, I replied. There it was, the truth. Simple and sharp. The Morrison executive on video conference cleared his throat. For transparency, our team negotiated exclusively with Claire. If there's instability in leadership, we need clarity before proceeding with phase 2. Translation. Fix this, or we walk. The board didn't deliberate long. They didn't need to. The chair folded her hands. Mr. Cole, step outside while we review. Ethan looked at Daniel. Daniel avoided eye contact. For the first time since I'd known him, Ethan had no one to stand behind. When the door closed, The air shifted again. The CFO spoke first. Claire, if asked to reassume leadership of Morrison, could you stabilize the account immediately? Yes. No hesitation. No tremor. Because unlike Ethan, I didn't need slides to explain what I built. 10 minutes later, Ethan was called back in. The decision was brief. His promotion was rescinded, pending formal HR investigation into ethical misconduct and falsified attribution. His directorship title revoked. Access privileges suspended. Effective immediately. He looked at me as if I'd ruined his life. But I hadn't lied. I hadn't sabotaged. I had simply stopped protecting him. As security escorted him to collect his things, whispers filled the hallway. The same co-workers who clapped for him 3 weeks ago now stared at their screens. Daniel approached my desk late that afternoon. We mishandled this, he admitted quietly. Yes, you did. He exhaled. The board would like to discuss next steps tomorrow. I nodded, because this wasn't just about getting even. It was about getting what was mine. And tomorrow, I wasn't walking into that meeting as a victim. I was walking in as leverage. I didn't sleep much that night, not from anxiety, but from clarity. For weeks I'd been reacting, smiling through betrayal, collecting evidence, holding steady while someone else stood on the platform I built. Now, the board wanted to talk. At 8:30 a.m., I walked back into the same glass conference room overlooking downtown. Same polished table, same skyline, different energy. The board chair got straight to the point. Claire, we owe you an apology. No corporate fluff, no deflection. We failed to verify attribution. We failed to protect intellectual ownership. And we nearly compromised a key client because of it. Daniel sat quietly, hands folded. The CFO slid a document across the table. We would like to formally offer you the role of Senior Project Director, effective immediately with retroactive compensation adjustment. Retroactive, meaning they knew exactly how wrong it had been. But this wasn't the moment to just accept and smile. I kept my voice steady. I'll accept under two conditions. 3 executives exchanged glances. First, Morrison remains under my direct leadership without interference. Second, we implement written authorship protections on all major proposals going forward. Silence. Then the board chair nodded slowly. Agreed. Just like that. Not because I demanded loudly, but because I proved value quietly. By noon, the company-wide email went out again. Please congratulate Claire Whitmore as our new Senior Project Director. This time, the applause outside my office felt different. Not performative, earned. Ethan cleared out his desk before lunch. HR concluded their review within a week. Ethical misconduct and misrepresentation were the official words. I never celebrated his downfall, because revenge, real revenge, isn't about watching someone burn. It's about building something they can't take. 2 months later, Morrison signed Phase 2, an expansion larger than the first. The Chicago board member personally emailed me, stability restored. Daniel never again approved a promotion without documented contribution trails. And me? I kept the navy blazer, not as a lucky charm, as a reminder. You don't always need to scream in the hallway. You don't need dramatic confrontations or public humiliation. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is restraint. Documentation. Timing. Ethan thought he stole my future, but all he really did was underestimate the architect.